Childhood. When looking back on mine, I definitely have some interesting memories. From using a hand crank to open the windows in the car, to games like Hungry Hungry Hippos, and those dang lead pencils that when you lose one piece, you literally can't use the whole pencil. Do you guys remember any of those things or know what I'm talking about? Let me know if you do. I also remember some more scarier aspects of my childhood, like getting yelled at for turning on the car light when my mom was driving. Like, what's the deal with that? Hey everyone, and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. I'm your host, Lindsay Ivan, and today I'll be sharing with you the top 10 scary childhood urban legends. Now, I blocked out most of these urban legends because some of them truly scared me as a kid. But now I have to relive them for you guys, so you're welcome. No, I'm just kidding. But some of them are truly terrifying and disturbing, especially for children. Starting off at number 10. It was a very snowy night and a young girl was staying up late watching her favorite TV show. As it got later, she noticed a man outside of her window. The man was very scary looking and was holding a big knife. Terrified of this man, she hid underneath the covers and called the cops. The cops came by and inspected the area, however found no footprints in the snow outside of the window that the girl saw the man at. But they did find a trail of wet footprints in the house leading up to the couch where the girl was seated. Therefore, the man was standing behind her the whole time and she just saw his reflection. One night, a man was driving home when he saw a female hitchhiker standing at the side of the road. He stopped and offered the girl a ride home. They got to talking and she says her name is Lydia and she directs him on how to get to her house. The next day, the driver goes back to his car and realizes that she forgot her red sweater in his car. So being the gentleman that he is, he heads back over to her house and drops it off, since it wasn't his size, or else he would have kept it, obviously. However, when he arrived there, the mother opens the door and informs him that Lydia passed away several years ago in a car accident. He encountered Lydia's ghost last night along the side of the road where her car crashed. At number 8, we have the man in the back seat. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard this story before since it's pretty well known. Now, this legend surrounds a girl driving home from a party when she noticed that a truck behind her keeps flashing their high beams at her. She keeps driving and noticed that he is following a little too closely, so she tries Nice. She keeps driving and notices that he is following a little too closely, so she tries to lose him. But when she speeds up, he speeds up. When she turns, he does the same thing while continuously flashing his high beams. The girl becomes super scared and when she arrives home, she runs into her house and tells her parents what happened. However, the truck driver tells them that he saw a man crawl into her backseat with a large knife. Every time that he would pop up in the back seat, he would flash his high beams to scare him and he would duck back down. I have to admit, I still think of this story sometimes when I'm driving home late at night. I do the odd little glance in the back seat to try and, gotcha, like try and catch them. Yeah. On to number 7. So this story revolves around a girl who was babysitting a girl named Holly. Towards the end of the night, she was going to treat Holly to some ice cream. Yummy, I love ice cream. Favorite flavors, strawberry or mint chip. But anyway, she asked Holly where their ice cream is and she says it's in the basement. The babysitter goes to the basement and gets the ice cream but sees a girl at the window looking in. She shakes it off just because it's Halloween and she returns back upstairs. Holly then asks for some hot fudge on the ice cream. So she goes back to the basement and this time the girl is wearing a cape, cute little Halloween costume. The babysitter then goes back upstairs and Holly, since she can't make up her mind, sends the babysitter back down, this time for sprinkles. This time, the girl at the window is holding a knife. The babysitter runs back upstairs in a panic and tells Holly to lock all the doors since there's a murderer at the window. Holly responds with, "We don't have any windows in the basement, only a mirror." Dun dun dun. So the girl was behind the babysitter in the house the whole time. At number 6, we have the Hook Man. One night, 2 teens decided to go on a date in the woods to a place called Lover's Lane. While cuddling and doing other lovey things, an announcement came on the radio. It stated that a prisoner had escaped an asylum and is on the run. He was a known killer who they called the Hook Man because he lost his hand in an accident and replaced it with a hook. Just as this announcement finished, they heard scraping on the side of the car. The girl was so freaked out she begged her boyfriend to just drive them back home, even though he insisted that it was nothing. When they arrived home, fear flooded the boyfriend's face as he noticed a bloody hook was lodged into the side of their car. We are now at our halfway mark with number 5, the Clown. Another babysitting story, yay! Seriously, what's the deal with scary babysitting stories? Like, watching children is scary enough. No, I'm kidding. Well, this babysitter was watching over some children for the night while their parents were out for dinner. After getting the kids ready for bed, the parents call in to check on their children. The babysitter says that they are all okay and they're cozy in bed, and she asked if it's okay to watch some TV in the parents' room. I mean, that's a bit weird in my opinion. She could have just watched it like in the living room on the couch, but you know, whatever floats your boat, it's fine. Anyways, the babysitter then asks if it's okay if she throws a blanket on the clown statue that's in their room because it's scaring her. The parents reply with, "Get out of the house, we don't have a statue of a clown." What would you do in this situation? Like, I would just chuck the blanket on the clown's head anyway and then get the heck out of there. Seriously. No, but seriously, how did that girl not realize that the clown statue, like, it was actually real? Like, would she be like, "Oh wow, that's great detail. Like, oh, even its eyes follow me when I move." What? No. Like, I feel like I would have noticed right away that that thing was real. Coming in at number 4, we have I Am Teddy. Ugh, chainmail. They can scare you or make you feel like a bad person. Seriously, there's no positive aspects to chainmail. Sometimes they even guilt me, like, repost if you love your family, don't if you want them to get hurt. Like, dang, I don't really have a choice then. Now, this next urban legend has to do with a chainmail legend named I Am Teddy. The chainmail basically reads, "Hi, I am Teddy. Once you read this, you cannot get out. Finish reading this until it is done." It continues by saying, "I am Teddy. I am 7 years old, I have no eyes and blood all over my face. I am dead. If you don't send this to at least 12 people, I will come to your house at midnight and I'll hide under your bed. When you're asleep, I'll kill you." Then it goes on by listing the people that refuse to forward the chainmail and what happened to them. It then tells the reader to send this message to 12 people before midnight or else they will suffer the consequences. Not sending it to anyone results in your death. Only sending it to 1 to 6 people means you will be hurt. Only sending it to 7 to 11 people means you will encounter your biggest fear. And sending it to 12 or more people means you're safe and you will have good fortune. Can't lie, as a kid I was like, nope, not risking it, and I would pass them all forward. Alright, let's move on to number 3. Disney World, the happiest place on earth. You got cute Disney characters, tons of delicious food, fun rides, and Mr. Walt Disney's frozen body. Wait, what? So legend has it that the creator of Disney is frozen, well, not like the movie, but is actually frozen in a cryogenic chamber waiting to be revived later on in life. I guess that gives a new meaning to Disney on Ice. This legend started in 1967 when a reporter snuck into St. Joseph's Hospital, the hospital where Walt Disney passed away. The reporter apparently broke into a storage room in the hospital and saw Mr. Disney's body in a cylinder. Legend also says that he is now stored in a freezer underneath the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland. This is not the case. Apparently, Walt Disney was cremated and then buried at Forest Lawn Cemetery in Glendale, California. In our second spot, we have the drip, drip legend. Alright, for this story we have a girl that was afraid of the dark, but she had a cute little dog that would sleep under her bed and keep her company. Whenever she would feel afraid in the middle of the night, she would put her hand under the bed and the dog would lick it, and this would comfort her. One night she heard something go drip, drip, drip. Being scared, she put her hand under the bed and felt reassured when she felt her dog lick her hand. However, the dripping noise didn't stop, so she got up to check the bathroom. She checked the taps, nothing, but still she heard drip, drip, drip. She checked underneath the sink, there was nothing, but she still heard drip, drip, drip. Lastly, she checked the shower and behind the curtain she found blood dripping down from the shower head and a message written in blood saying, "Dogs aren't the only one who can lick." I think this is the main reason that when we go to the bathroom, we rip open the shower curtain to make sure that no one is behind there, honestly. And we have reached our number 1 spot. As a gift for her birthday, a young girl named Lucy received a doll in the mail. They don't know who sent it, but appeared to be very antique looking. However, Lucy wasn't too fond of the doll as it scared her. She told her mom that she didn't really like the doll, but the mom scolded Lucy for being ungrateful for her gift. Lucy pleaded her mom to get rid of the doll, but her mother insisted on keeping it. Forced to keep it, Lucy hid it at the back of a cupboard behind a pile of shoes. One night, Lucy was lying in bed when she heard some shuffling and dragging noises on the stairs. She then heard someone say, Lucy, I'm on the first step. The shuffling sound continued and she heard someone say, Lucy, I'm on the second step. Lucy was terrified and didn't know what to do. The dragging sound continued, followed by, Lucy, I'm almost there. Lucy hid under the covers, but once again she heard the dragging noise, and then she heard the doll say, Lucy, I'm in your room. The next day, the parents found Lucy passed away in her bed with the doll beside her, with one of Lucy's fingers on the doll's hand. Apparently, the doll has different fingers from each of their victims. Yikes. That one was definitely the scariest one for me.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have Cropsey. Some of you guys may have heard me talk about this one before. It's the story of the boogeyman of Staten Island. He was rumored to be a homicidal maniac who escaped from a mental asylum. He would hunt for children and drag them back to the ruins of a hospital where he lived. Witnesses always said that he had a hook for a hand. These stories were meant to scare kids, perhaps even told to them by their own parents who wanted them to be more wary of strangers. Then, in 1972, the boogeyman became real. News broke of a real-life corpsey man called Andre Rand. He was a former janitor at the local school for mentally disabled children. Rand was arrested in connection with the disappearance of Jennifer Schweiger, a 12-year-old girl with Down syndrome. He lost his job over the case and moved into the now abandoned school that he used to work in. He was eventually convicted of murder, and police connected him to the disappearance of 4 other children. No bodies were ever recovered. Moving on now to number 9, guys, we have the Bunny Man. I talked about this legend in my West Virginia video, if you remember. The story goes that in 1904 a mental asylum closed down. While transferring inmates to a new facility, one of the buses crashed. Most of the people in it were killed or captured trying to escape, but one actually did escape, known as the Bunny Man. He would then roam the land, hunting rabbits and then leaving their half-eaten carcasses for the locals to find. Sometimes they will be hanging from a tree or a bridge. Although there are parts of the story that just don't add up, something strange happened in 1970. A couple driving their car at night had an axe thrown through their window by a man in a bunny suit. 2 weeks later, another man found an axe-wielding guy in a bunny suit chopping wood nearby who was gone by the time police arrived. Are these linked together somehow? Is there more truth to this than meets the eye? Moving on now to number 8, we have the body under the bed. Ever since hotels and motels have become a common part of society, people have swapped stories about guests who discovered that the mattress they were sleeping on was either above or even stuffed with the body of a murder victim. A grisly tale for sure, but one that was confined to the realms of myths and legend. Then, in 1999, a case in Colorado occurred involving a couple who slept on a mattress containing a body. The police kept the details of that close to their chest, but in 2010, a huge story broke when guests at a Memphis motel discovered they had been sleeping above the body of Sony Millbrook, a missing person at the time. Her boyfriend, Lakeith Moody, was convicted of the crime. Many people were horrified and vowed to give their hotel beds a closer inspection next time. Next up at number 7 now, guys, we have the Maine Robber. That's M-A-I-N-E. The state. For many years, visitors to Maine's North Pond have reported that something strange was going on there. Time after time, people reported that things were going missing. Not just one person, one time, many people, many times. Batteries and food would vanish from cabins, while flashlights just disappeared from camping tents. People thought either the earth itself was swallowing it all up, or there was a thief at work. It turns out they were right about that. In 2013, a game warden discovered Christopher Knight living alone in the woods. For 27 years, this man had been there watching hikers, canoeists and other visitors to the area. When taken in for questioning, Knight admitted that he was responsible for around 40 robberies a year. I mean, stealing batteries is one thing, but I feel like if you were being watched all those years and then you were proven right about it, that would be even creepier. At the number 6 spot now, we have the Falling Lawyer. Now, I've lived in Toronto for quite a few years now, and I've personally heard this story floating around the place, but I never thought it was actually true until now. They say that years ago there was a lawyer who loved to show off how strong his office windows were in his building that overlooked the city. Every time someone came to visit, he would take a long run up, jump, and hurl himself right into the window. Sure enough, the window would remain intact, although we'll never know if this actually impressed his visitors. Well, this lawyer was real, and his name was Gary Hoy. He was a senior partner at his firm with an office on the 24th floor. On July 9th, 1993, some law students came to visit. He took his usual leap at the window, but this time, after years of it being weakened, it smashed. Gary plummeted to his death, and the improbable story became somewhat of a local legend. Next up at number 5 now, we have the Puebla's secrets. For many years, longer than people can even remember, the people of Puebla in Mexico have talked about the tunnels. Secret tunnels that were built under their city by the Spanish conquistadors in the 1500s. It's been almost half a millennia since then, and the stories became legend. People looked for them, but they found nothing. The tunnels became a myth, something to scare the kids into believing there was a dark maze of caverns beneath them. In 2014, construction workers were in the middle of an urban remodeling project when they stumbled upon an old tunnel. Surely the legends weren't true. The Puebla History Center took over the site to investigate, and yes, it was the fabled tunnels people had spoken about. They determined the tunnels were built in 1531, right after the city was founded. Members of the Catholic Church supposedly used the tunnels to transport treasure and other property in and out of the city without people knowing about it. Part of the tunnels are now open to the public, giving you the chance to walk through the dark halls of an urban legend that came true. Coming in number 4 now, guys, we have the alligators. I definitely talked about this one in our New York Urban Legends video. Many years ago in New York, people would say that there were alligators in the sewers below the city. They said a young boy once flushed his pet alligator down the toilet. Years later, he reached into the sewer grate to retrieve a lost baseball. At that moment, a fully grown alligator leapt up from below and ripped his arm clean off. The same alligator he had flushed away. Many people dismissed the whole story. Alligators, New York, crazy. However, in 1959, Teddy May, the commissioner of New York during the time of these rumors, wrote about the alligators in his tell-all book. He said that he and his inspectors did find alligators in the New York sewers in 1935. They were up to 2 feet in size. It took 2 years for them to clear them all out, more than enough time for the facts to get blurred with fiction. Moving on to number 3 now, we have the dog boy. For many people in Arkansas, they know the stories of the dog boy. Kids swap tales of a werewolf-like man who roams around the town of Quitman. Some even say they've seen him. Many of them might not know that the story is somewhat based in real life. Gerald Bettis was born in Quitman in 1954. By the time he was a young boy, the neighbors were already calling him evil. They said he liked to capture stray animals and torture them in twisted experiments. As he got older, he turned on his parents, tormenting them until, at the age of 27, his dead father was found in his home. The newspapers said it was illness, but others said it was murder. Berris then kept his mother in the house until she was finally taken away and placed in protective custody. His mother testified against him, and he was given life in prison, where he died a few years later. They say that his spirit still haunts that house and that he's often seen roaming the area as a ghost on all fours with shaggy hair like a dog. At the number 2 spot now, guys, we have Charlie No Face. Some of you may have heard me talk about this one in my Pennsylvanian video. Charlie No Face is the story of a boy called Charlie who once got electrocuted while climbing on an electric pole to try and see into a bird's nest. He was horrifically disfigured. His face had practically melted off. Eyes, nose, mouth, one of his ears and one of his arms all completely gone. It also turned his skin a sickly green. Somehow he survived and lived out his life in a small town, rarely showing his face to the other locals. People would share the story of Charlie No Face, but because nobody saw him, the story became nothing more than an urban legend. But it wasn't. The story was actually true, all except for the name. Charlie's real name was Raymond Robinson. He was friendly to people whenever they saw him, and he wasn't responsible for the many hauntings that became associated with the legend. And finally, number 1 now, we have Polybius. You may remember this from my video game Urban Legends video. Polybius was the name of an arcade game which kids in Portland got addicted to in 1981. Whenever they were forced off it, they felt nauseous, stressed, or even had seizures. Some people noticed the game was being serviced a lot more than usual. Instead of once a month, Polybius was being checked by men in black suits every single week. They would copy its hard drive, leave all of the money, and then be gone until the next week. People believed they were from the CIA, and that Polybius was all part of a mind control program that sent subliminal messages to its players. While a lot of this is debatable, there really was a kid who got sick during an arcade marathon contest in Portland in 1981. A few days after that, federal agents really did seize a load of arcade cabinets. They said it was all part of a major gambling bust. This is where people tend to differ in opinion. Some say say that the story of Polybius was inspired by the events, others say the events are proof of the story.
Coming in at number 10, we have Bloody Mary. Most of us will know the legend of Bloody Mary. She is a mirror-dwelling ghost that is said to appear when her name is chanted again and again as you stare into the reflection in the mirror. The origins of Bloody Mary go way back in old folklore, when ye olde women would invoke the ghost of Bloody Mary to show them a glimpse of their future husband's face. Things could go south if they saw a grim reaper or a skull in the mirror instead. It would mean that they would likely die before they got the chance to marry. In modern times, the legend goes that if you summon Bloody Mary, she appears as a witch-looking woman. If she is angry with you, she'll scratch out your eyes, steal your soul, drink your blood, all of the dark stuff. I'm sure you'll know loads of people who played Bloody Mary as a kid and maybe they got freaked out and convinced themselves that they saw something, but honestly, I never heard of anyone actually getting their eyes scratched out. The mirror ghost is a popular urban legend across the world. In Japan, they have something very similar in the form of Hanako-san. Coming in at number 9, we have the Ghost Pushers of Gravity Hill. In almost every ghostly urban legend video I have done, especially those in the United States, there has been a phenomena of a car being pushed up a hill by some kind of otherworldly being. This story tends to involve a car accident in that very same spot and helpful ghosts who want to save you. One example of the legend will be, say, on a rail track. The legend will say that in this very spot 37 years ago, a bus filled with kids died when it got struck on the tracks. Now, if you park the car there these days and wait, your car will miraculously be pushed over the tracks by helpful tiny dead kid hands. Creepy. Too far? Other versions take place on hills where cars have rolled backwards and caused fatal accidents, only for ghosts to remain in that very same spot. There are legends like these literally all over the world. There's Confusion Hill in California, Magnetic Mountain in Canada, Moonbee in Australia, the Magic Route of France, Hangman's Hill in Essex, UK, so on and so forth. They're literally everywhere. Generally speaking, naysayers will claim that these so-called phenomenon are a trick of the light, like water appearing to run uphill. Coming into number 8, we have walking on gravestones. Have you ever felt a shiver unexpectedly? Well, folklore and urban legend have said that if this happens to you, someone has walked on your gravestone. This suggests that somewhere there's a future in which you're dead and buried, but somehow you feel it right now. The urban legend also suggests that we should never step on another person's grave for this very reason. We may send a shiver down someone's spine or anger their spirit, which may just follow us beyond their final resting place. Honestly, beyond that, it's just kind of disrespectful to step on someone's grave. Coming into number 7, we have the ghost train. A classic ghost train. I'm not talking about the fairground ride, although since Goosebumps there has also been a lot of haunted ride urban legends. When I say ghost train, I mean the ghost of an actual train thundering at breakneck speed only to disappear out of sight. Or perhaps strange headlights in the distance near an old abandoned track. Or a smell of a steam engine and a puff of smoke coming from nowhere. There are thousands of ghost train legends. The St. Louis Lights, Stockholm's Silver Pylon, Abraham Lincoln's funeral train, and more. Okay, next up I will see your ghost train and raise you a scary ghost ship. Coming into number 6, we have the Flying Dutchman. The Flying Dutchman is the most famous of the ghost ship urban legends, and it dates back to the 1700s, a high time for seafaring. It refers to a doomed Dutch man-of-war ship. Tales of the Flying Dutchman are ingrained in seafaring lore, a lot like that of the Kraken. Many sailors have reported seeing a phantom boat emitting a bright light on a stormy night, and it is a bad omen for seafarers. It's become a very loathsome superstition. The Flying Dutchman has regularly been spotted, famously once by King George V of the UK. Some say that they've spotted the ship in the air, hence the name the Flying Dutchman. Explanations include mirages, looming refraction, and simply hallucinations from fatigued sailors. Ooh, I love number 5. We have a theatre ghost. There's always a blooming theatre ghost, isn't there? Old theatre buildings absolutely always come replete with a ghoul. Is it because of the high drama of the theatre? Does it leave an imprint on the building? Or is it because imaginations are high in theatrical settings? Usually urban legends of theatre ghosts go as such. The spirit of a former performer who either died on stage or in a brawl at stage door haunts the theatre for the rest of time. The ghost is seen by actors on stage as they look out to the audience, or they're felt by patrons who sit down, only to feel a sudden rush of cold air as they go by. I personally love a good theatre ghost story. There is the Phantom of the Opera, who isn't actually dead. The many ghosts of the Theatre Royal Drury Lane in London, one of the oldest theatres in the world. We've got the Wailing Woman of Wellington's St James Theatre. Judy Garland is even said to haunt the Palace Theatre in New York. Theatre ghosts are always blamed for mischief too. Lights turning on and off, props flying about backstage, things going wrong on stage. Theatre ghosts are usually tricksters and agents of chaos. Honestly, I could stand here all day talking about theatre ghosts. Maybe we should do a top 10 scary theatre ghost stories list. I'd really like that. Coming into number 4, we have The Vanishing Hitchhiker. The Vanishing Hitchhiker is a classic ghost urban legend. In each of the stories, a driver picks up a person thumbing for a lift. They drive them a little way, something spooky and mysterious is said, and then the person in question vanishes. Often, they leave a little clue behind them as to who they might have been. The driver then does a bit of research and finds out that the passenger died along that very stretch of road X numbers of years ago, sometimes to that very day. Spooky. This is such a classic urban legend that most cities have a story like this. In Chicago, for example, they have the Vanishing Hitcher Resurrection Mary. You can hear more about her in our Chicago Urban Legends videos, one of my favorites I've done this year. In Japan, a similar phenomenon is reported with the alleged ghosts of tsunami victims. Cab drivers in Inshinomaki have reported ghost passengers. Do ghosts like cars, or are the Vanishing Hitchers stuff of legends? Coming into number 3, we have shadow people. Shadow people are popular ghost sightings, and we actually did a whole top 10 on this. Some people have described scary shadows as black mass ghosts, negative imprints left on the world from angry spirits. So many towns and villages across the entire world have reported shadow sightings, with some cultures and tribes believing they are demonic spirits. One of the most famous shadow people sightings include the Dark Watchers of Santa Lucia, dark featureless shadows wearing hats and carrying walking sticks that appear silent and watching in the distance of the Santa Lucia Mountains. Recently, a black cloud was spotted over a mall in Zambia that some people were claiming was a shadow ghost, or a dementor. Was a shadow ghost the contents of our number 2? We have The Ghost in a Jar. The Ghost in a Jar is one of my favourite ghostly urban legends ever. While there have been many stories of spirits being trapped in objects, the Ghost in a Jar story went viral and inspired imaginations across the world. The story goes that in 2003, TJ 101 of Arkansas listed a jar containing, I quote, a black thing. The lister said they dug up the jar near a church in the 1980s, and since then they had been plagued by a black shadow. The jar is painted black and red on the inside and is also covered in strange symbols. If the jar is so creepy, why did it take the owner 20 years to get rid of it? I don't know, but the listing went viral anyway, and somehow the ghost in a jar sold for nearly $51,000 and since has been the stuff of legends. The legend was so widespread and popular, it even became a Rick and Morty character.
Thanks, Ghost in a Jar. You always were good at pointing out potentially obscure comedy.
I feel like the need for a 15-year update on this. Does someone have that ghost in a jar? How does this story end? I need more information. Finally, coming into number 1 of our top 10 scary ghost urban legends, we have the legend of the White Lady. My, if I had $1 for every White Lady ghost I had read about, well, I'd have enough dollars to buy a pretty convincing White Lady costume and go around spooking people and making them think that I myself am a ghost. Anyway, White Lady ghosts are popular ghost tropes and usually have some kind of tragic background of love and loss and searching associated with them. I guess the ghost being in white represents some kind of woeful purity and something unfulfilled. Many are depicted wearing wedding dresses. There are countless tales of White Lady ghosts across the world. In Canada, she is a war widow who threw herself over a waterfall in Quebec City when her lover never came home. In California in the United States, she haunts Calico Ghost Town, a place I actually visited last Christmas. In the Czech Republic, she's the spirit of a cursed wife who haunts a castle. In the UK, she also haunts a castle and has a bounty of hidden treasure. In Malta, she wanders a forest in her wedding dress, and in Germany, disturbing her will get you killed. In Asia, White Lady apparitions are usually much less romantic and far more malevolent and vengeful. So guys, what a spook fest! What is your favourite ghost urban legend? Let me know in the comments section down below.